Private Cheryl, there have been no reports of any serious injuries or arrests in this incident, but there was real fear and disbelief in that room as divisions within Thornton Township government exploded into violence.
During a public comment session, chaos erupted as fists flew in what many witnesses described as a disgraceful and chaotic scene. The incident took place at a local meeting where members of the community had gathered to voice their concerns and opinions on various issues affecting their neighborhood. Tensions had been mounting throughout the session, as the atmosphere grew increasingly charged with emotions. What began as a routine exchange of public statements quickly escalated when opposing views clashed. The atmosphere, already tense, quickly reached a boiling point. As a speaker finished their remarks and stepped back from the podium, an argument broke out between two individuals in the audience. What started as a heated verbal disagreement quickly turned physical, with fists thrown and the room descending into chaos. Eyewitnesses reported that several people attempted to break up the fight, but the situation had already spiraled out of control. Some attendees were shocked by the sudden violence, unable to comprehend how a public meeting, which was supposed to be a place for civil discourse and productive conversation, had devolved into such an outburst of aggression. The scene was described as disgraceful by many who were present, as the fight not only disrupted the meeting but also damaged the reputation of the community and the local governance structure. What should have been an opportunity for residents to express their opinions respectfully had instead turned into a spectacle of disorder, with some questioning the overall civility and decorum of the event. In the aftermath, the organizers of the public meeting were left to pick up the pieces, with a focus on addressing the violence that marred the session. Leaders within the community expressed their disappointment over the situation, acknowledging the need for better management and intervention to prevent such incidents from happening again in the future. The event raised serious concerns about how to maintain a level of civility during public discussions and how to better manage conflict during meetings. Residents and officials alike were left reflecting on the implications of the outburst, questioning how the community could work to prevent such violent disruptions in the future. Many advocated for stricter rules and measures during public meetings, including heightened security or the implementation of more effective conflict resolution strategies. While the incident was ultimately an isolated event, its impact on the community lingered. What should have been a productive and civil exchange of ideas turned into a symbol of division and discord, one that many hoped would prompt a reevaluation of how public forums are conducted. The hope was that, moving forward, residents could once again come together in a more respectful and peaceful manner to engage in constructive dialogue without the threat of violence overshadowing the process.
That should never happen. I just couldn't believe that it came to that.
Just moments before the chaos unfolded, activist Jedediah Brown had publicly accused Supervisor Tiffany Henyard of being exploitive. Brown's sharp words, delivered during the public comment session, quickly escalated the already tense atmosphere. As Brown made his remarks, he appeared to walk toward Henyard, which sparked a heated response from her supporters in the audience. What followed was a rapid chain of events that led to an all-out brawl, according to multiple witnesses. The verbal confrontation between Brown and Henyard had already put everyone on edge. Brown's accusation of exploitation was not a minor one. It touched on sensitive issues that had long been at the heart of local politics and community concerns. As the tension in the room reached a breaking point, Brown's approach toward Henyard appeared to be the catalyst for the physical altercation. The move prompted an immediate reaction from Henyard's supporters, who swiftly intervened to protect her. What began as a heated argument quickly escalated into a chaotic scene. Witnesses described a violent struggle breaking out between the two sides, with several individuals throwing punches and shouting at one another. The confrontation seemed to spiral out of control in mere moments, with the exchange of blows involving not only supporters from both sides but, according to some accounts, Henyard herself. Several reports indicated that Henyard was directly involved in the brawl, either attempting to defend herself or become entangled in the melee, further adding to the chaos. The scene was one of absolute disorder. Security and other attendees scrambled to separate the fighting individuals, but the altercation was brief and intense. Many witnesses were shocked, unable to process that a meeting intended for public discourse had devolved into such violence. The disruption left a lasting impression on everyone in attendance, casting a shadow over the event and overshadowing the purpose of the public comment session. Following the incident, there was a palpable sense of disappointment and disbelief from those present. Public meetings, typically a space for civil dialogue and constructive exchange, had been marred by such a disgraceful display of aggression. Both sides of the conflict were left grappling with the aftermath of the brawl, and many attendees felt that the situation undermined the integrity of the process. In the wake of the violent outbreak, there was immediate concern over how future meetings would be handled. The presence of Henyard herself in the fight raised questions about her role and behavior during the session, leaving many to wonder how such a situation could be prevented moving forward. The incident sparked a broader conversation about the increasing tensions within the community and the challenges of maintaining civility in public forums, especially when strong emotions are involved. Community leaders were quick to address the aftermath, calling for more stringent rules and security measures at future public meetings. Many suggested that better protocols needed to be put in place to ensure that public comment sessions remain a platform for productive discussion, rather than becoming arenas for violent clashes. There was also an underlying concern about how accusations, such as those made by Brown, could escalate into physical confrontations, and how to better mediate these types of situations. As the community sought to recover from the incident, the focus turned to restoring trust in the democratic process and ensuring that future public meetings could be conducted with the decorum and respect they deserved. The incident, though disturbing, highlighted the need for change in how these events are managed to prevent further breakdowns in civility.
It's one thing when the guys were fighting, but when she jumped in it, I was just taken aback. I was floored.
The turmoil at the public meeting didn't end with a physical altercation involving activist Jedediah Brown and Supervisor Tiffany Henyard. After Brown was carried out by security, the situation was far from resolved. Police were called to the scene as tensions remained high, with the crowd still simmering from the earlier chaos. It took several more minutes before tempers finally began to cool, and the room slowly returned to a semblance of order. The eruption of violence had left everyone on edge, but the underlying tensions continued to hang in the air, complicating efforts to restore normalcy to the meeting. This public comment session was the first meeting since Trustee Stephanie Weedman had been selected to fill a vacancy on the Township Board. Weedman's selection marked the end of a long political standoff that had kept the position vacant for an extended period, effectively paralyzing the township's governance. The vacancy had been a major point of contention, contributing to the dysfunction that had even led to a government shutdown. The unresolved political battle over the trustee position had created a sense of gridlock in the community, with critical decisions unable to be made, including the approval of key financial measures and ordinances. The selection of Weedman was seen as a breakthrough, finally ending the impasse. With her appointment, the board was able to resume its duties, passing important measures that had been stalled for weeks. This included the township's tax levy ordinance, a crucial piece of legislation that determined the funding for essential services, as well as the renewal of the township's insurance policy. The approval of these items marked the official end of the government shutdown that had disrupted the township's operations and left the community grappling with uncertainty. Despite the positive outcomes stemming from Weedman's appointment, the mood at the meeting remained fraught. Before the brawl, there had already been plenty of verbal sparring, with sharp exchanges between various attendees. The long-running political battles, including the controversy surrounding Weedman's selection, had clearly left deep divisions within the community. Those divisions were on full display during the public comment period, where accusations and counter-arguments flew, amplifying the already volatile atmosphere. The fallout from the altercation was a stark reminder of the intense emotions surrounding the township's governance issues. While the board's ability to approve essential ordinances marked a turning point, the meeting itself underscored the deep divisions that persisted in the community. The chaotic scene raised serious concerns about how public meetings were being conducted and how to manage such high-stakes discussions in the future. As the meeting eventually came to a close, the question on everyone's mind was how to move forward. Could the township rebuild trust among its residents and restore civility to its public forums? Many believed that stricter rules and more effective security measures were needed to prevent further disruptions. Others called for better ways to mediate disagreements before they escalated to the point of violence. Despite the drama and unrest, the appointment of Stephanie Weidman and the approval of crucial ordinances signified a step forward for the township. However, the lingering tensions made it clear that significant work would be needed to heal the rifts and ensure that future public meetings could be conducted with respect, order, and a focus on constructive dialogue.
The township will be reopened tomorrow. We will go back to operating our vehicles. All our buses will be out and running.
The board also
The meeting, already fraught with tension, saw another dramatic turn when the township board made a bold decision to defy Supervisor Tiffany Henyard. In a move that caught many by surprise, the board voted to place 2 of Henyard's associates on paid leave, pending an investigation into their actions. Alongside this decision, the board also voted to hire independent auditors to thoroughly probe their work. The announcement of these actions added another layer of conflict to an already volatile situation. The decision to place Henyard's associates on leave was a direct challenge to her leadership. The associates in question had been closely aligned with Henyard, and their actions had come under scrutiny in recent months. While the specifics of the allegations were not fully disclosed during the meeting, it was clear that the board had significant concerns about the integrity of the work conducted by these individuals. The move to put them on paid leave was seen by many as a necessary step to ensure transparency and accountability in the township's operations. The resolution to hire independent auditors to investigate the associates' work further highlighted the severity of the situation. The board's decision to bring in outside experts was intended to ensure that the investigation would be impartial and thorough. There were growing concerns among some residents and board members that any internal review could be compromised by political influence, especially given the ongoing power struggles within the township government. The independent auditors, it was hoped, would bring an objective perspective and help restore trust in the board's oversight. This bold action by the board was significant, not just because it represented a challenge to Henyard's authority, but also because it underscored the increasing friction between the supervisor and other members of the board. Henyard had already been under fire for various reasons, including the chaos that unfolded earlier during the public meeting. The move to place her associates on leave was seen by many as a further step in a growing rift between her and the board, one that had been simmering for some time. Henyard's supporters, however, viewed the board's actions as an overreach and an attempt to undermine her leadership. They argued that the decision to place her associates on leave and bring in auditors was politically motivated and designed to weaken her position. In the charged environment of the meeting, this clash of perspectives only heightened the animosity between the two sides. The ongoing tension between Henyard and the board was compounded by the already volatile political environment in the township. The previous week's government shutdown had left the community on edge, and the appointment of trustee Stephanie Weidman had done little to calm the waters. Despite the township's ability to pass important ordinances, including the tax levy and insurance renewals, the political infighting and allegations of misconduct continued to dominate the conversation. As the board moved forward with its decision to place Henyard's associates on paid leave and hire independent auditors, the community was left to grapple with the broader implications. The incident highlighted the ongoing dysfunction within the township's leadership and the challenges of managing internal conflicts while trying to govern effectively. For many, it was clear that the township's political struggles were far from over, and the path forward would require significant efforts to rebuild trust, accountability, and cooperation among the board, the supervisor, and the residents. In the aftermath of these decisions, it was evident that the township's leadership would need to find a way to heal deep divisions and restore order to the governing process. Whether this latest move would bring about the transparency and accountability needed remained to be seen. But it was clear that the battle for control of the township was far from over. The meeting, intended to be a productive session focused on resolving key issues and advancing the work of the township, ended in chaos and violence, leaving residents frustrated and upset. What was meant to be an evening of public discourse, where elected officials and citizens could engage in meaningful conversation, quickly descended into an ugly and violent confrontation that overshadowed the work that needed to be done. For many, the disruption was a stark reminder of the dysfunction that had plagued the township for months and the challenges of carrying out the people's work in such a charged environment. The tension in the room had been building throughout the meeting, which had already been a pivotal moment for the township. The board had made significant decisions, including placing 2 of Supervisor Tiffany Henyard's associates on paid leave and hiring independent auditors to investigate their actions. This move had escalated the already tense political landscape, as it marked a clear challenge to Henyard's authority. With such high-stakes decisions, emotions ran high, and many residents were already on edge. But no one could have predicted that things would take such a dramatic and violent turn. Activist Jedediah Brown, who had been vocal throughout the meeting, crossed the line during the public comment period when he called Henyard exploitive. The word struck a nerve, and Brown, appearing to walk toward Henyard, set off a chain of events that quickly escalated into an all-out brawl. Witnesses described the scene as chaotic and disturbing, with supporters from both sides jumping into the fray. The violence and physical altercation shattered the decorum that had been expected at a public meeting and left many residents in shock. Even after the fight was broken up and Brown was escorted out by security, the damage was done. The meeting, which had been intended to carry out the people's work, was irreparably marred by the ugliness of the violence. Instead of discussing important issues and making decisions that would affect the community, the focus had shifted to the aftermath of the fight, with police being called and tensions still simmering in the room. The disruption not only undermined the legitimacy of the proceedings, but also further deepened the divisions within the township. For many residents, the evening's violence was a painful reminder of the dysfunction that had plagued the township for some time. The meeting had been billed as a chance to put the political gridlock to rest, especially after the recent appointment of Trustee Stephanie Weedman, which was supposed to bring an end to the months-long vacancy on the board. The hope was that with Weedman's selection, the township could move forward, pass crucial ordinances like the tax levy, and restore order. Instead, the meeting became a spectacle of chaos, with the ugliness of the brawl overshadowing the real work that needed to be done. The public outcry was immediate, with many residents voicing their disappointment at the violent turn of events. Public meetings, which should be a space for civil discourse and decision-making, had become battlegrounds for heated emotions and physical confrontations. The inability of the board, and the community as a whole, to maintain order and civility left residents questioning whether productive governance was even possible under such conditions. In the aftermath, it was clear that the township faced a long road ahead in rebuilding trust and restoring order to its public forums. The board would need to find ways to ensure that future meetings were conducted with respect and that the people's business could be carried out without the distractions of violence or personal animosity. Many residents called for better security measures, more stringent rules for public comment, and a renewed focus on fostering civility and cooperation within the board. The meeting, which was supposed to be a turning point, instead left the community grappling with the fallout from a violent and disgraceful episode. The question now was how the township could heal from this moment and move forward with the work it was elected to do.